Hi, this is Daniela Wolf with Bestie Life, the podcast, and this is your community to support you through the little and not so little events that make up your day-to-day life. From the I've got this moments to the I just can't moments. We are here to empower all women to find and develop the skills they need to find peace, balance, and the bliss in their busy. Through solo episodes as well as interviews with amazing women who share their journey and their story and how it works for you. I hope you find the inspirations to make you laugh, think, as well as maybe rethink what you thought you knew, and connect as we realize that we are all living similar ups and downs and don't have to do it alone. So excited for you to hear this episode, and thanks so much for joining me today. Hi, this is Daniela with Bestie Life, the podcast, and today I am so excited for you to meet Shay Kent. She is a passionate author and speaker dedicated to empowering women to live their best lives. And with a background in entertainment and entrepreneurship, she's really had to learn how to exude her confidence, even when she doesn't feel like it. Because of that, she's been able to work on feature films, spoken on stages, and started multiple businesses, as well as flipped 6 houses in 2 years. I can't wait to dive into how you did that. And as well as moved across the country to the beach on basically a moment's notice. She's a mom of 4. You wrote your book in a month, which we're also going to dive into. And so I'm excited for you to share how you inspire millions of women to stop settling and start living their dream lives. So thank you so much, Shay, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So we've got so much to get into, but if you want to share a little bit first about your journey and how you got here.
Yeah, like everybody, I'm sure we all have our ups and our downs and our pivotal moments and everything, but I can definitely trace my biggest aha pivot to when I was 26 years old. I was working my butt off at a restaurant, not making nearly enough money. I was a college dropout. I was just partying all the time. I didn't have a whole lot of ambition. I thought that the dream that I wanted had passed me by. At such a young age. 26 is really young to be thinking that. And I was doing such a good job that my manager offered me a position as a manager and wanted to train me. And I was excited, humbled, and that was a really great offer. But I stopped and looked around and I thought to myself, if I take this, if I do this, I say yes here, I'm saying no to everything else and no to that dream. So I called him up right before the shift started and I said, hey, thanks so much. I'm going to have to pass on that offer. And by the way, I quit. So I totally burned the bridge. And then I got in my car and I drove 45 minutes to the Colorado Film School where I enrolled. I had no idea how I was going to pay for it, but I did it anyway. And I was scared and I did it anyway. And I graduated early in like 3 years. I was on the dean's list. And my very first job out of film school was The Walking Dead season 2. Ooh. And then I got on American Idol and then Mythbusters and then some movies and scripted TV shows and things. And I was living my dream. Some party girl from nowhere, Arvada, Colorado. And at that point, I had accomplished everything that I had dreamed of.
Right.
So that was where I learned how to step outside of my comfort zone to really actually attain the things that I wanted.
Yeah. But I mean, that's terrifying. And I'm sure, people listening, in some ways it's inspiring and motivating. In other ways, it's quaking in your boots kind of stuff, and it sounds like with some of the other things you've done, moving across the country, flipping houses, what's kind of been the motivator for a lot of these different things?
The main motivator was really just being true to myself of what I wanted out of life. And with that awareness, which I'm sure we'll talk about later on here in a little bit as well. But with that awareness comes the opportunity then to slay the dragons, go against your fear and make things happen for yourself, or to go, you know what, this is really scary and I'm not going to do anything right now and take a back seat.
Yeah. So how do you help women then? So what's the work that you're doing in that way?
So I just wrote a book. It's called She Is You, Unleash the Confident, Successful Woman Within. And within that book is my framework called the Abby Method: Awareness, Breakthrough, and Inspired Action, to basically tell all of those limiting beliefs, I call them nurse ratchets, tell all of those things to shut the heck up and get into breaking through those old patterns and talking down to yourself and into the inspired action steps that's going to give you the biggest return on your time investment. So that's really how I help. My goal is to inspire 1 million women to get out of their own way and make their lives happen, even when things are scary, and to really live the life that they are destined to live.
I love that you call yours Nurse Ratchet. Mine's the Mean Girls in my head, but I like your name way better.
Thanks. I got that because I am such a film geek, is where I started everything, right? And One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is where Nurse Ratchet pops up, and she is regarded as being one of the most evil villains in film history. I thought, that's exactly what I'm going to call my limiting beliefs, are Nurse Ratchets.
Yeah. Now, did you ever see the series Ratchet?
I have not yet. It's on my to-do list.
You definitely need to watch that, but that's for a different story. So the Abby method, go through those again for me, because I definitely want to make sure we get, what are those steps and what do they mean a little bit?
Sure. So it's awareness, breakthrough, and inspired action. In the awareness piece, you get to look at your life of, where are you now? How'd you get there? How are you responding to things going on in your life? Like at different events, good or bad, like what's your automatic responses? What are these feelings that are popping up? And you get to take a elevated look at, I'm experiencing anger right now. I wonder, how come? And you get to look at that and look at how those automatic responses, those automatic feelings have helped you create the life that you have. And it's not to say that all of our automatic responses or programs or reactions are bad. They've gotten us to where we are right now in life. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. However, if you are aiming at leveling up your life, there are some things that you can change. And that's what happens in the awareness piece. That next one is breakthrough. So now that you are highly aware of what's going on, you now get the opportunity to bust up those old beliefs and those old patterns. So that's a really fun step. And it might be the most difficult for some people, because, I'm 42 years old. I have 42 years of experience of operating from the same way. So retraining myself to operate in a different way takes time and practice. And if you're not, up for a challenge, if you will, it will be a little more difficult. But that's not to say that you can't do it, because everybody can. And then the inspired action is my favorite step. I totally go against this whole idea of massive action and you have to get up at 3 a.m. and you got to work like 15 hours a day and hustle. Like, no, that's how we get super burned out. And, you will maybe get to the goal that you wanted if you can last that long on no sleep. But when you get there, you're gonna be so tired, it's not even gonna be worth it, right? So my model is, let's do inspired actions. Let's let our intuition guide us so we can take the biggest inspired action steps that will give us the best and biggest return, because I also don't like wasting time. So the model of being busy all of the time, like, some of those things on that task list, the to-do list, can be completely just scratched off and thrown away for, they're not even needed for you to get to the goal. So that's where we talk about inspired action is, enjoying the journey.
I love that. So if you're listening, rewind that, write this down: awareness, breakthrough, inspired action. And I love the fact that you're listening to yourself, that you're not taking someone else's model to make that massive action, like you said, but it's really intentional. It's really, based on your intuition. I think we don't always listen enough to ourselves. And that's where, we have then regret and we have guilt and we have resentment because it doesn't come from in us.
Yeah. That, what if, or I should have, or I could have, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's just another big giant nurse ratchet. We want to get rid of her, right? Stop shooting on yourself is what I like to say. And just go with your gut. They say that our gut actually is the main brain of our bodies. Like, I don't know if you saw that on Netflix or not, but
no. Is it a documentary?
It's a documentary. It's really interesting. Essentially, it all boils down to, your gut is your intuition. Like, go with it. It knows best.
Okay.
So
do you know what it's called?
I do not off the top of my head, but
All right.
I will
I'm going to
find out and
Google
let you
it.
know.
Yeah, we'll
Yes.
put it in the show notes because I'm so curious because I do think, there's that mind body connection that we don't always pay attention to, that sometimes a physical thing isn't always about just a physical thing, that there
Hmm.
is that whole mental and internal piece connected to it. And by listening not only to our brain and all the chatter, but listening to our body is so, so important in just so many ways.
Yeah, and life in general too, right? Like, especially as a woman, our experience of going to our car in a dark, parking lot is very different from what a man's is too. And we
Mm-hmm.
have to be highly aware of those gut reactions. One time I was in Boston with my husband and we had gone out on the town, partying it up, whatever. It was like 3 a.m. We were walking back to the hotel and it said to turn down this one way. And both of us were like, no, we're not going to go that way. We're going to go the long way.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, I had spoken to him about it, and we both had that gut intuition that was like, don't go that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, literally learning to listen to yourself can save your life.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times our biggest signs aren't the loud voice, it's the little whisper that we need to pay attention to.
Opportunities are like that as well. The little
Yes.
whispering knock.
Yeah. So you've had so many opportunities between your careers, writing a book. So to go back to your bio a little bit, 6 houses in how long was that? 2 months,
2 years.
2 years. Where did
Mhm.
that come from and how did that happen?
In film, you work a minimum of 12 hours every day at 5 days a week, sometimes six, sometimes seven. And I was like, wow, I'm working a lot for somebody else. And though it was really, really fun and something that I dreamed of doing my entire life, I was like, I am working like 80 hours a week for somebody else. This is so silly. Like, I'm doing to work for myself. What can I put my time into that's going to give me the biggest reward? Right. Because, like I said, I don't like to waste time. So I thought, I'll flip houses. I heard you can make a lot of money doing that. So I learned, I read a bunch of books. I went to a seminar and did my first flip on a coin toss, no less.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Was it
So
heads or tails?
it was heads. I called heads and I won the house. And little did I know I was winning plumbing that had been cherry bombed and a retaining wall that was falling down and ended up costing me a heck of a lot more than I ever imagined. But that was how I got started with that. And then once I figured out the formula, we just kept rolling. One week, my husband went out of town on business and I bought 3 houses.
Oh my gosh.
He was shocked, not too pleased.
Did
But
you
we
have
did
people
well.
doing the work for you or are you a DIYer?
It started off as DIY, as much as I could. And then by the end, I had the formula down. So I knew who I could hire. And basically, I was just a project manager at that point and running all the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge thing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And then you moved across the country. What was
Yeah.
going on there?
So I was living in Colorado and during the pandemic. So all of the shutdowns and everything. And it was so cold that year and snowing, and we couldn't get out and go and do anything. We couldn't even sit outside because it was so cold. And we were like, why are we living here? This is miserable. So we booked a plane ticket down to Florida, drove around for a couple weeks, found this little place. It's so charming. It's called Dunedin. It's near Clearwater. It's got brick streets and a really quaint downtown, and we can walk everywhere. And it checked off all of the boxes. We had 11 things that we were looking for, and it was all of them. And then 2 months later, we were down here. We found a house. I found a house online and put in a really low ball offer because I had all this experience in buying and selling houses from doing all the flips. And so this was a flip house and it had been sitting on the market for a while. So I knew that they were really itching to get it off the books. And so I came in with kind of a low number just to open the door for conversation. And we negotiated and we ended up getting it.
Congrats. That's awesome.
Thanks.
I love hearing people's stories because I do think that's where we can find some of that inspiration of seeing what's possible based on what other people have done. I think we're always projected some very traditional, sometimes or safe paths as far as you go to school, you get a job, you stay at your job for 20 years. And to see not every risk is always a great risk, but to see the options and what's available when you step outside your comfort zone, when you do those risks is magical.
It really is. And having the being brave enough to step out of your comfort zone and take the opportunities, as they come, because everything that has been amazing in my life was scary and risky, and I was terrified to do it. And I did it anyway. I think a lot of times we get stuck thinking that, we have to either have one or the other. And it is possible that we can have both. We can do an and instead of an or.
Yes.
So it's like, I can be scared and move forward and test something out. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work,
Yes.
It's fine.
Yeah. Like, I love the power of the and. No, that's awesome. And I think too, for anyone listening and thinking taking a big, scary move sounds too hard, I think sometimes stepping out of your comfort zone doesn't have to be massive, like moving across the country. It can be as different as taking a different route home from work, going to a different grocery store, start with the small risks.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, you might be going, oh, that's not even a risk, Daniela. But, to take a small step outside of what's the norm makes the bigger risks easier later on.
I love that because it's practice.
Mm-hmm.
Right. In the book, She Is You, I talk about just starting off with like going and eating by yourself in a restaurant. If
terrifying.
That's something is terrifying. Exactly. It's like, just go and do it by yourself and without a book.
Right. Or a phone.
Right. You have to actually be there in the room, be mindful, just be, and sit in that uncomfortableness. Because when you learn how to do that and get that muscle to grow, the bigger things will be, as you said, way easier. Like if you're in for a review at work or something, and you're asking for a raise that you would normally not even bother asking for because you would feel so uncomfortable. But now you've got all this practice behind you that you can sit quietly being uncomfortable and let them sit and be uncomfortable. And then they'll come to the table with a better offer. But it's that whole practice thing,
Yeah.
And also, if you want to really get those muscles flexing, go sit in the restaurant by yourself and then invite another single person to come eat with you, a complete stranger. See
just
how
be
that
careful.
goes.
But yes.
Yes. Watch listen to the intuition who you're inviting to sit down and eat with. But that can be another really great way of just flexing it and getting used to the idea of, I can be uncomfortable and still have a good time and still get something accomplished.
Absolutely. Because over time, those big scaries will become smaller. The more other ones you have kind of layered underneath, then those become the little ones. And, what do they say? Next level, new devil. Like, of course, the first time will always feel a little bit scary, but that means you're up leveling. That means you're growing. That means you are not in the same place you were before. And that's definitely part of the goal.
Exactly. Being able to even get yourself into rooms with people who have up leveled that maybe you feel a little nervous just being around, and simply listening to their stories, listening to what they talk about, listening to what their interests are, you can really gain a lot of insight. Actually, when I was a home stager, so I had a home staging company after I was flipping houses, I ended up with a bunch of furniture that I was like, what am I doing with this furniture? It's not making me any money sitting in a garage. I'm going to start a home staging business. And I staged a $1.5 million home, which was the biggest one I had done. Wow. And we did a big giant open house, and they invited, so the people who built it had a ton of money and all their friends had a ton of money. So I'm standing in this room, collectively these people were worth like upward of $20 million, and I felt so uncomfortable. And the part of me that was the normal reaction wanted to just run out the door and be like, thanks, bye, and run away. But I stayed and listened to what they talked about, and they were talking about, investments and money and ROI just free flowing and all of these ideas, and they were making connections. And to listen to how it was so nonchalant for them, like the same way a normal conversation for me would have been like, oh, I got this brand new cheese at the grocery store.
Wow.
So just being able to kind of be that fly on the wall will also elevate you in the way that you think as well.
Yeah. So practice wise, what are some of the things you currently do? Like, how do you still create that awareness for you? What is some of your practices in that area?
It is an ongoing process, this personal development bit, right? So I have been using a form of a brag book. I also created that as a journal. It's on Amazon. But my brag book, part of it is being able to just brag on yourself and be like, yeah, like I am freaking awesome. Look at all these amazing things I'm doing. There's also the flip side to that, which is having gratitude. So I use this journal to focus on what I'm grateful for, focus on all of the amazing brags that I have accomplished. And then I also use it to put my affirmations. I am a huge believer in installing new affirmations and beliefs. So then your subconscious can just kind of take the reins and things will just flow for you.
Right.
So that's one of the things that I do. I also have somebody I can talk to. Like that's really important. Someone to kind of not be a yes man at all. It's not who you need to be speaking with. Someone that can give you a good reflection. You know, like for me, it's my husband. He's my best friend. We've been together since we were 15 years old. Like it's been our entire lives.
Wow.
And he's not going to sugarcoat things for me. So if I'm like if I'm struggling with something or I need an opinion on something that I'm doing or not doing, you know, I can easily speak with him and get a different perspective of the situation, which also is very helpful for me to be able to step away from my emotions in an event and look at it objectively, and then being able to make the choice of how I want to actually react rather than letting the nurse Ratchet run rampant in my head and take over.
Right.
And also just continually practicing the awareness bit. And whenever I have a new feeling pop up around something, you know, I really attempt to go, okay, what is going on here? Like, why is this triggering me? Like, what is this feeling that I'm having? And is there a different way I can look at it? And how else can I interact with this person or this situation? And so those are the three main things that I do.
I love those. And I love that you bring up gratitude. That's a perfect kind of segue, because I always love to have the conversation around gratitude, because I think it's one of those underutilized forms of self-care that is available to us all the time, that has way more power than we give it credit for. And so what would you say are some of the things that you're the most grateful for?
I am grateful for my husband and my mom and my beautiful daughter. And I am grateful for being brave enough to follow my intuition and let that guide me in building the life that I have always wanted. Because right now, in this snapshot of my life, I am freaking loving it. And it's all of the work that I've done in the past. You know, I think a lot of people get caught up in that, oh, this is a lot of work, this is hard, this is like going to take forever. Yeah, like sometimes it does take a little while. However, you're still going to end up in the place that you want to go, because if you give up and you stop, you're not going to get there. So like, does it really matter the timeline? So right now I'm very grateful for just the life that I have been able to build.
That's awesome. I love that. So Shay, how can people find you to work with you? Where can they find your book, your brag book, all the things?
They can find me. The easiest place is beasuccessfulwoman.com. Then both of the books, the brag book and the She Is You Unleash the Confident Successful Woman Within, are available on Amazon as well. And then I'm all over like Facebook, Instagram. I just got TikTok. I'm having a blast with it. So you can find me there. My handle is the Shay Kent.
Awesome. And all those links will be live in the show notes below. So thank you so much, Shay, for joining me today. I have loved getting to hear about all of this, and definitely the way you share these actionable steps in your formula are going to be game changers.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. This is great.
Thanks so much again for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let me know any questions or comments that you have. Also, if you can please leave an Apple 5-star review so that this episode can be shared with more women. There's 2 quotes that I love. Alone we may be strong, but together we are stronger. As well as when women support each other, incredible things happen. So let's be stronger and incredible together, as well as maybe just have some fun along the way. Thanks so much, and talk to you soon. Bye.